It's a great honor. It's a great honor to be here with all of you here this afternoon. It's really a great honor. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to be here. Young scholars, you have and relatives. So my name is Kūhai. I'm actually a new professor in the Department of Critical Race and Ethnic Studies here on this department. And my heart's so full of joy to be here with all of you and our community. Gosh, it's so funny. My heart is so filled with joy right now. In our Tongan language, so I'm Tongan, I'm Pacific Islander. In our Tongan language, we have a word, it's called, it's just a phrase, right? O mawhana piko goloto. O goloto pikato kilalo he kedani. It just means that my heart is on the ground. I have a great humility. I feel a great humility, and my heart feels such a great warmth, relatives, to be here with you tonight. I also want to, here I am battling with my mask, and people keep asking why you're wearing a mask, and they said, we respect that. The reason why I'm wearing a mask is because I'm a cancer survivor, and one of the things, and very recently, I was recovering from cancers, I should say. And one of the things that I did is I went to confront and engage with my stress. You guys, I bit my crowns, right, on my teeth, on this side and this side. So that's what I did, a very horrible, unhealthy habit. Anyhow, one of the things that happened with that is that I can't fix, my doctors are like, well, we can't fix your teeth before you go to teach or you get on a campus because it's considered a major surgery. And so with the meds that I was taking, I couldn't have the surgery. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because I just met two people out in the audience who said, oh, should I wear a mask too? And I said, I have to be honest. I mean, I do, of course, care about all the health, right? The healthy reasons why we wear a mask. But relatives, I just wanted to say, for me, I'm just wearing a mask. And I want to thank you for your generosity to the two young scholars who asked that question. I'm actually just wearing a mask because I'm an idiot. And I bit off my two crowns, right? And so I am learning much more healthier ways to deal with stress. So anyhow, I just wanted to say that before we started, because I'm actually really touched by that, right? My heart is, I guess it's just what UC Santa Cruz is for me. It has been a place of such great compassion. And when we talk about great compassion, compassion and love, that's what I have in respect for these two young warriors that I'm with. And I'm actually going to let them introduce themselves. Both of them also are Vedana slugs and amazing student activists and amazing student leaders, I should say that, as well as scholars on our campus. Malia and Ali.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali Labuke. Like Kūhai said, I'm a student here. I'm a third year in critical race and ethnic studies and environmental studies. And I've been organizing in Mauna Kea Protectors, our chapter at UCSC, since my freshman year. And I will say, I think this is one of the biggest events we have organized since my time here. So I just wanted to thank everyone for being here, as well as especially thank our guests, Hāwane, Hopoe, and Amber, visiting from Hawaii and Oakland, for being here. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say for now. I'll pass it to Malia.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here today. It's so great to see new faces and familiar faces. I just want to say happy Asian American Pacific Islander Month, month of May. There's also usually the PI part kind of gets left out a lot, so it's really amazing to have such a great turnout for this event. My name is Malia, I use she, they pronouns. I serve as the Student Union Assembly Vice Chair, Diversity and Inclusion. Our Student Union Assembly is our official undergraduate student government here at UC Santa Cruz. My office specifically works with uplifting issues around diversity and inclusion, but I have also been a part of Mauna Kea Protectors since my freshman year. It was the first student organization that I joined, so it just really warms my heart to see everyone here today. I'm going to pass it back to Kūhai to introduce Julissa. Sorry.
So before I introduce Professor Julissa Lopez, we just really want to give a shout out to all the wonderful relatives on our university campus who generously supported the series, by the way, that you're at, which is a series, it's the Protecting Mauna Kea series. So Ali's just going to come back and shout out those wonderful people.
All right, yeah, so first of all, we have the Asian American Pacific Islander Resource Center. We have the Center for Reimagining Leadership. We have College 9, who gave us this wonderful venue, Critical Race and Ethnic Studies, Film and Digital Media and Social Documentation, of course, Mauna Kea Protectors at UC Santa Cruz, the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Rachel Carson College, and the Student Union Assembly Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and of course, also the Center for Racial Justice.
We do at this time with so many budget cuts where the answer is always a no, or everything to do with social justice, especially with decolonialism, is always a no or an impossible. We really want to thank these very generous relatives for their great love and aloha, as our Native Hawaiian and Kanaka Ōiwi relatives would say. So relatives, when I came up, I was just a little startled. Please forgive me. I had to ground myself and take a breath. What we Tongans would say, a manava, right? A breath. And, I want to thank you. I really do. I want to sincerely thank you for being here at this first. It's an inaugural event that we're doing, and we hope it's a series of events, programming and curriculum change that includes Pacific Islanders, Indigenous Pacific Islanders, traditional ecological knowledges, as well as pedagogy, curriculum. It's a vision that we have for this university. And it actually follows in a legacy of great Pacific Islander scholars who actually did their PhDs here at this university, right? It's really for great humility for me to say that I am actually the only Tongan professor in a UC, University of California. And I really say that relative to great humility, because I know that I couldn't have gotten here actually without my ancestors and their great dreams and hard work, as well as so many people that believed in me and in my community. Right, and so when I was in conversation with other Pacific Islander professors throughout the UCs, actually, young scholars, you can count us on your hands. How many of us are at a UC university, right? So it's really, for me, it's really a great honor to be here, and also to be part of this work, to help dream along with all of you the great work that's been done on this campus. But as I mentioned before, actually, Pacific Island Studies, I really want to shout out these ancestors. Many of them are still alive. However, I want to acknowledge the work of our great sister, Dr. Teresia Te'iwa, who passed away several years ago, who was a landmark name and her vision for what Pacific Island Studies and Oceania Studies would be today. Also, big shout out to Dr. Vince Diaz. He's now a professor at the University of UCLA. Right, Dr. J.K. Haulani Kawanui, who's in Princeton right now. All of them got their PhD education here at UC Santa Cruz. At UC Santa Cruz, also young relatives, why our young Kiai from Hawaii are here today is because UC Santa Cruz is not only a site of settler colonial violence, but also what I want to bring up and highlight is that it's also a site and a place of refusal, of resistance against settler colonial violence, right? Kumu Case is one of the most respected and esteemed leaders of Mauna Kea. It's her vision that the Kiai come here and also meet all of you, as well as become, let you know and congratulate you and thank you for the great work that Kiai on this university have done since CAT 2010, right? Was it 2010? And also Michelle Goa, right? Cat Wilder. And it's just also, relatives that you guys did your undergrads here at UC Santa Cruz, right? So yes. And so this work also continues. And as both of you, as everyone of course can see and witness, our two relatives are, they're white. They're white. Right, and I bring this up because this is something I always teach students too. You don't have to be an Indigenous person. You don't have to be a person of color. You don't have to be a poor person. or come from a family of violence. In fact, if you don't, that's perhaps why you want to be part of a movement of people who work towards stopping these particular kinds of violences, right? And so one of the things that Kat and also Michelle have done since, with the work that continues to support Mauna Kea on this campus is using their own resources, right, for wealth distribution. And what they do is they use their privilege to stand up and to support Indigenous people, right? So relatives as Indigenous people also from the Pacific. It's just with a great humility too that we bring up Julissa Lopez. This is Dr. Julissa Lopez, who is Amahutsen, the tribal band who are currently the stewards of this land. And so Julissa, we bring you up. Relatives, I want to say it is no small feat that Julissa is up here on the stage to not only do an acknowledgement that acknowledges, it does more than acknowledges, it is to show the refusal, the resistance of a people who are still here, even with all the settler colonial violence. Julissa, in her opening, is going to talk a little bit about it. But Julissa, just who you are and what I've seen of you since just, my very new time here at Santa Cruz. Julissa, I've seen you you've talked to my students, talked about the history of settler colonialism here in Santa Cruz, and educated every single one of us. In my student reviews, Julissa, your name came up consistently, that the students wanted to learn more about this land that they're on. Right? And I know that our young relatives and our relatives that are here in the crowd would love to know that. So Julissa, you guys, I got her undergraduate here at UC Santa Cruz, right? So she's a Mehana. She did her PhD at the University of Michigan. And this is so important, young scholars, and I hope that you're able to take a class with Julissa, because Julissa very recently was appointed as an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology here at our university. Julissa, thank you so much, and we give you the time.
Mishmin Truhis, Kanaka Julissa. Hello everyone, my name is Julissa. I'm going to remove my gum from my mouth, excuse me, so I can talk. Well, thank you all for being here today, and let's see if I can just focus. I think it's right now. So today I'd like to acknowledge the Awaswas people whose traditional homelands we are on today. Currently, there's no active Awaswas tribe, a tribal people, but it is my belief and hope that there are still Awaswas descendants walking on these lands today, and that one day we will be reunited together. My tribe, the Amamutsun Tribal Band, are the contemporary stewards of these lands, but our homelands include South County of Santa Cruz, like Watsonville, heading into Gilroy-Hollister area. And today I'd like to share a story with you for my land acknowledgement. And specifically, given the documentary that we'll be watching today, I wanted to acknowledge the women of my homelands. I am a descendant from a woman named Seferina. In 1799, at 25 years old, Seferina was taken from Paxing village to Mission San Juan Bautista, where she was baptized. She is the first woman in my lineage to be taken into the mission system. Seferina had a daughter named Martina, who was taken to the mission as a small child and baptized at only 2 years old. At that time, most children in the missions did not live to see their second birthday. 3 out of 4 babies died before the age of 2. But Martina survived, and she was the only one of her siblings who did. Martina later gave birth to Josefa, the first person in my lineage born inside the mission system. Josefa was also the sole survivor of her siblings. And then Josefa gave birth to Andrea, and Andrea to Romana. And generation after generation, there is often only one daughter, one child, and one survivor that carried our family forward. My existence and my family's existence is nothing short of a miracle. When I was growing up, I would hear my elders ask, how could our people have learned to love in a place like the missions? How could we have learned healthy relationships in places built on domination, separation, and loss? And as I grew older, I came to my own answer. Our women kept the love going. They carried it, and they protected it, and they passed it on, even when everything around them was designed to break it. My great-great-grandmother is Josephine, who we still tell stories about in our family. And Josephine's great-great-grandmother was Josefa, the woman I said was the first to be born in the mission system. So when we speak about history, we're not speaking about a distant past. This history still breathes in our family, and it still shapes me today. As I was writing this, I thought of my own mother, Sonia. I shared yesterday that she grew up in the foster care system and gave birth to me at 16 years old while living in a group home. She was young, isolated, and without many examples of what a mother's love was supposed to look like. And yet, when she saw me, she said that she felt for the first time that she had a family no one could take away. And I believe that is the same love that carried Zephyrina, Martina, Josefa, Andrea, and Romana, and Josie. The love our women hold for their children, the love they hold for our people and for our land, that is the love that has secured our survival as Indigenous people and the protection of our homelands. So tonight, as we gather to witness the story of the women who have stood to protect Mauna Kea, I want to say that I come from women like you, women who refused to disappear, women who understood that our love for our people gives us the strength to protect our lands. And for that, I honor your matriarchs, and I honor my own. Mushin Kemes, I have love for you all. Dumsanakanis, thank you.
Professor Julissa Lopez, I love you. And Gatolo wanted to, with the greatest humility and the asking of permission from the Yamamutsen tribal path. And thank you so much. You know, relatives, when we talk about asking permission, that is one of the most important, young scholars, is one of the most important Indigenous cultural protocols, right? That when you're a settler, when your people are from that place, right? Every single one of us, we chased after what we were told was this American dream, including my own family. Although I'm an Indigenous woman from the Pacific, I'm not Indigenous to this land, right? And so it's really with always a great humility. And Indigenous cultural protocols always, it demands that when you begin a program, when you begin a new life, you ask for permission. And so thank you so much, Professor Julissa Lopez. I just love that. I just love saying professor. Because now you're not just a homegirl, all right, or even a niece, but now you're a professor. So, so coming up also to offer some beautiful gifts from their Kanaka Maui ancestors is Kumu Mehana Mitchell-Thomas. And Kumu Mehana Thomas was born and raised on the island of Hawaii. And what is so important about her extended bio, everybody's up there, but I just really wanted to thank her with great humility. Thank Kumu Mehana. You know, Kumu Mehana, everywhere I've gone here in Santa Cruz, in my new time here, everybody talks about you. Yeah, everybody says you have to meet Kumu Mehana because her work here in the local community is really to spread aloha and also to educate the public on Hawaiian culture. So Kumu Mehana also right from the Mauna, Kumu Pua case, when we were having the conversations about having these programs, the series, Protect Mauna Kea series on this campus, she said one of the first things you have to do is to contact Kumu Mehana Thomas. So it's with a great honor, Kumu Mehana Thomas, that we want to thank you and your beautiful, beautiful and just fierce ohana and Hālau that are also here with you today. So. Some more lady as well, for you, Kumu, as well. Laura, can you help with the lady? Oh, okay. Sorry. I hope that it's okay with my act of great gratitude and also humility. I really want to give this away to my sister, Christine Hall. Christine Hall, relatives, please forgive us. And also the Center for Racial Justice. Will never be up here on the stage unless she's called. This is actually what this is what solidarity means. This is what it means to stand in good relations with Indigenous people, right? And we want to thank you, Christine. Thank you so much for your great love for us and the Mauna, and for our Kiai.
Aloha mai kako, just a short words. Like we were on Zoom with Kumu Pua, and she said, keep it short. We've got a movie coming. So I'll keep it short. I am Mehana Thomas, but all the students here, you need to call me Auntie. It's a sign of respect. So I am Auntie Mehana to you. My Hālau is here in Santa Cruz. We've been here for 27 years, and I like it here. I like it. When I went back home in 2013, one of my trips back home on the Big Island, I went back for my brother-in-law's, Robert Roy's ho'oleva. And so after the ho'oleva, my sisters and I were all sat together outside on her, in her garage on the picnic table. And so both my sisters came out with these scarves. I'd never seen them. This was 2013. And started to talk to me about this Mauna scarves. And I think it was 2013. And they gifted me 2 of them, really pretty. So they started, my sister Marilyn, she started, telling me what was going on in Mauna Kea and brought up Pua Case's name. And so when I came back here, that's when I went online. you know. Back then, I wasn't online too much. Then I started. So I went online and just started researching Pua case and what was going on back there in Hawaii. The Mauna is very special. Mauna Kea is very special because being born and raised on the Big Island in Hilo and Kona, and in Hilo, while growing up, what do you see when you first wake up? We walk into school. I used to go to Kapiolani school. And what do we see? We see the Mauna. We see Mauna Kea. You know, she's always there, always watching, just like your mother. Yeah, just like your mother. And it's a constant reminder. So when I moved up here and what was going on back home, you know, I took serious thought on it. Yeah, and discussed it with my niece. Her name is Kahialani Wilcox, and so she can give me info on what's going on, because she seems to be, you know, very in tune with Ohana people back there in Waimea. That's where I spend a lot of time, because my Ohana is in Waimea. And tell me what's going on. So I bring it back to California, to my Hālau, and so I bring back the love, the respect that I have for Mauna Kea. You know, 2015, I mean, we were on the streets at Ocean, and we were down at the clock tower. We had our posters, you know, supporting the Mauna. Yeah, a couple of people yell at me, but that's okay. You know, I'm good, you know, but we still do it. And as much as possible, you know, we're always, when we go do our shows, our Mauna banner goes with us. We've got so many pictures. We go do a gig, it has nothing to do with the Mauna, but our banner has to be there. It has to be hanging, it has to be behind us. We have a gig again, 2 more coming up, the Mauna banner goes with us, you know? And you know, it's like telling Hawaii, we are still here, even though the last time I've been up there was 2019. I was up there 2019, you know, joining with Professor Tangaro. He taught a dance there and did protocols up there. And I feel very, very powerful just being there. It's interesting. And I went up to Mauna Kea because I was invited to go up. Being raised on the island, I never went up to the mountain, up there to the top, because I was never invited. So not to be invited is very maha'oi, yeah? So you don't want to be maha'oi. And even being born and raised there on the island, I've never been to Waipio Valley until I was invited. I was living here, and I was invited by Kūkahakalao to go to the valley. I ended up in the valley. You know, I'm in my 40s and I end up in the valley in my 40s because, you know, I wouldn't go down there unless I was invited. Like I wouldn't go up to the mountain unless I was invited, you know. But the Mauna holds a strong feeling in my heart. And so to share it with my students is very, very important to me. All right, I got it. It sprung on me, but I got it. Also, okay, I'll end it here, Pao, but thank you for all coming. Thank you, Fui. Oh, Fui. What I can say about her, I just met her through a text, and it's like I knew her forever, you know, forever. So mahalo, and thank you again. And thank you, Hāwane, and Hopoi. Thank you very much, mahalo. Seeing this powerful Mahina here, both of them. It makes you feel good. You know, seeing Hāwane is like seeing her mother. So, you know, one of those mana women. Thank you, mahalo.
So young scholars and relatives, we do want to, you know, sharing food and eating together is one of our most important cultural protocols. We really want to thank so many of our sponsors again for making that happen. And also our young warriors who also got that, you know, got the food paid for and also ordered. And Kumu Mehana is going to be offering a prayer. Right? She's going to be offering a prayer before we share the food. Hopoelehua mahalo, mahalo. And so, although I don't speak Hawaiian, I do know that throughout that song we heard mahalo often. Mahalo. Yeah, mahalo, it sort of just bring also our amazing MC here, Malia. Malia, what is mahalo? What does mahalo mean? You're a Kanaka Ōiwi young student.
Mahalo means thank you.
What is the importance of gratitude to indigenous people, to Kanaka Ōiwi?
So putting me on the spot. So gratitude is really important to our culture. I mean, aloha, āina, like our connection and giving back to the land, giving back to people. It's a very you have to have gratitude. You have to have gratitude for the land that you're on, especially the land that we're on right now. It's indigenous, and be very mindful of that. I'm gonna pass it back to you.
That's great. I just want everyone to know, and I think this was in our conversation at dinner we had last night, because I know in how I do the work, I always call the young people to come up and also speak. And sometimes it's off the cuff, right? Sometimes it's off the cuff. And I want you, young scholars, to know that awkwardness and that kind of feeling of I don't really know what to say, that's absolutely okay, right? That's actually part of the learning. That's also part of the learning. And we were talking right with Denise's Hopoi and Hāwane, that our learning's a different route, right? In this way, but that learning as young people, it's very important. You always played an important role. The elders, as well as the young, played a very important role in how protocols and how ceremonies were done, right? And so we hope that today you're going to see, an intergenerational, a group of people up here who are all working together for the same goals, right? And so, well, it's the food time, and we always like to say this, it's indigenous protocol, and I think every single one of you, when you think about it, when you look back at your own family's histories, that these are also kinds of protocols that you have in your family as well, right? So when food comes, right, not everybody rushes to the table. Usually who eats first is going to be the elders, right? It's going to be the elders. Secondly, it's of course, and I mean, of course, this could be, these are not hierarchies, but these are also, they're ways of looking, they're actually methods of caring and looking at each other. The second could be the mothers, right? Mothers are feeding babies, right? Also, as young people, you always look around you. Who are the people who might be disabled? Who are those that might need extra help, right? Extra support, that's a better word, extra support to get to the table. Okay, so before we eat, I'd like to ask you, and I know in America the word elder, it comes with these particular connotations of shame. In the Pacific and throughout all indigenous cultures, actually elderhood is actually a revered position. It is a position that you worked so hard your whole life to survive and to grow old. So therefore, you should go get your food, okay? And so it's something that we're really, really proud of. So throughout so please, if you are an elder, right? And let's be proud of that. Let's be proud of those gray hairs, okay? Those aching feet. And the work that you've done to be an elder. So we ask the elders first, please go first, and then we'll go from there. And any feeding mothers or, anybody also that's, might be, that you might have any disabilities, please come and eat first. Then we'll go from there. Okay, so as we go on, let's also put some music on and let's eat, and then we'll go on to our program. Great, everybody. We're gonna have very soon. We also there's a very important part in indigenous cultural protocols that we want to show you, and we want to share with you, and that's gifting. Gifting is very, very important. And it's one of our protocols whenever we have a gathering, especially something of this great importance. So I want to give it to all of those who really worked so hard to make this happen. Relatives, I just really want to say again the great gratitude that we have. I really want to thank really with a lot of whakatau kilao, with a heart on the ground, with great humility and gratitude. I really want to thank my sister, Christine Hong, and the Center for Racial Justice, being on this campus. What a great work on this campus to ground us. And this work wouldn't be possible, this work of bringing us all together and to stand for the Mauna, especially at a time of great, what they call austerity here on this campus, right? Which we all call, as a created scarcity, that we can't even move, that we can't continue to dream. And it's these times of great difficulties that we thank our sisters and our brothers for showing us to continue to dream and to continue to create spaces of resistance like this tonight. And I really want to thank my sister Christine Hong, and of course she would be the one who would be, the cornerstone too, for the gifting section of this program. So Christine, I want to give the space to you and the others that you've been working with to create this particular time, this particular space for the gifting. Yep, okay. Relatives, so these gifts, and we always see humble gifts, right? And how we talk and present a gift, we always say humble gifts, even if it's because it is everything that we've got. It's the best that we've got. That is why we say humble gifts. So this first gift here is for our beloved Kumu case, who actually is who's the catalyst, and who is one of the cultural practitioners, who's also well respected. Kanaka Ōiwi, land protector and leader, who actually brought us all here. And so it's her work and her vision that brought us here. And so, relatives, when we talk about Kumu as well after watching that film, Kumu, our beloved Kumu, is unable to be with us here tonight because she's healing and recovering from breast cancer. So this first gift is for our beloved Kumu. As well as for our beloved Kumu. We also remember an indigenous land that's so dear to our hearts, and that is Palestine. And I didn't want to forget this gift that is made by a Palestinian mother of embroidered ocean waves. So from our Palestinian brothers and sisters, our Palestinian mothers, Kumu, we love you. And so also for our beloved Hopoi, our niece Hopoi, who's one of the Kiai visiting from Hilo. Hopoi. And also the next one goes to Hāwane. I know that she would say no to this, but it's because of how much we love her. We're doing this anyways. And thank you, we love you, mahalo. This is actually for our sister Christine Hong. And the bag is from the sorority land trust. It's from the Suburban Workforce in Oakland. It's Rematriate the Land, the work of Indigenous women's work to protect the sacred. And for our dearest Christine, some little gifts in there for niece Hālau. But one of them also, of course, is the olive oil from our relatives in Palestine, as well as for you, that's in here also is a gift from our sisters, the mothers in Palestine, the waterways, right, the deep water. Christine, we love you so much. This is, we always say this when we offer a gift, our young relatives, we want to teach you our ways, because our ways are very different from the Western ways, right? We always say, we're sorry, which means when you give a gift, you give your whole heart and you give your best. And when you give that gift, you say sorry that we don't have anything good to honor how much you mean to us, right? But that's what we say, and I want to say that because it differs so much from the Western ways of extravagance and ostentatious materialism. And so whatever that gift is, it could mean a cocoon nut, it could mean seeds, it could mean a leaf, or it could mean the olive oil or the embroidered tea towels from our sisters in Palestine. You're so loved, Christine. You're so loved, and we're so grateful for you. And then the rest. So this is for our niece Amber. Amber, can you please come up here too? Amber, relative, she also comes from a long line, a genealogy of women who break boundaries and who move nations, right? Her grandma, Ariska, wow, she's such a hero to so many of us. Her work, especially on Black women and liberation throughout the Bay Area. So to know that I just found out that you were her granddaughter. What a great blessing. And of course you would come from that lineage. What a proud lineage that is. Amber, we always say that, although for the kids and everybody here, they worked so hard to create these gifts for you. All right, we love you, Amber. Thank you. Oh, gosh, it's beautiful song. Thank you so much. And also, of course, our beloved Kumu Mehana from this land, who has done the work for generations. Kumu Mehana, we also have a gift for you. We really want to honor you, I think, for your great work. This is for Kumu Mehana. Kumu Mehana, also a bag from the Sigorte Land Trust. And some shower gels and Epsom salts and just things that are going to help you as you go back home to rest your, after hula for a whole day, just to rest your weary body. Mm-hmm. So, and thank you again for the hula and all the mana that you're doing. And Julissa, we also have Julissa, yes, Dr. Julissa Lopez. I'm a Muslim representative. Julissa, we love you. Big shout out to your family, huh, Julissa? Who's here from your family?
My husband.
All right, what's his name?
Juan.
Sending all our aloha to Juan as well. So I think that I think that there were just some last ones that was before. Oh, okay. Yes, please forgive me, everybody. Just because of time, we're going to do this tomorrow. We want to thank you, everyone, again for being here, and we're going to go on to the next part of our program. And so I'm going to give it over to Malia.
Let's go with the panel. Okay. Just to introduce everyone that's here, we have Amber, Hāwane, and Hopoe who just presented their incredible film. And then we also have Professor Iokepa Casabal-Salazar, who is a professor here at UCSC, is a Kanaka Valley artist, activist, and educator, born and raised in the Central Coast, who spent his 20s and 30s in Honolulu, Oahu. He received his PhD in political science from the University of Hawaii at Manoa and teaches in critical race and ethnic studies at UCSC. And his first book, First Light, Kanaka Ōiwi Resistance to Settler Science at Mauna Kea, is a site-specific interdisciplinary study of the Kanaka-led struggle to defend Mauna Kea from telescope development on the remote summit region of Hawaii's tallest mountain. And also we have Professor Nicole Furtado, who is also a Kanaka Maoli Native Hawaiian writer and scholar, whose research builds on the methodology of mo'olelo, or Native Hawaiian forms of storytelling, as a way to reimagine indigenous futurities that move us beyond a here and now temporality, and supports critical fabulations of Native relationality. And Furtado's work aims to center how indigenous digital arts restore kinship relations, develop land-based pedagogies that challenge the settler commercialization of land and landscapes, and emphasize the need for ethical networks of relations for how we encounter social technologies into the future. Furtado received her PhD in English literature at UC Riverside with a designated emphasis in speculative fictions and cultures of science.
We also have Sophia Reyes here is interested in developing critical pedagogic, you guys, yes, practices that give students an opportunity to engage in multidisciplinary learning across the social and biological sciences. Sophia leads a small group of undergraduate students from both STEM and non-STEM fields who volunteer with the Ama Mutsun Land Trust bi-weekly. She also works with other graduate students and faculty personnel to develop a structured summer internship program for first-generation POC undergrads who are broadly interested in pursuing careers in environmental management, restoration ecology, and plant science. Sophia is also probably Mauna Kea Protector's biggest recruiter. So, yes. We also have Ali Blabuke. Ali has been a part of Mauna Kea Protectors for the past 3 years, working to raise awareness about the fight to protect Mauna and fundraising for mutual aid disaster relief efforts in Hawaii. As a third-year environmental studies and critical race and ethnic studies, Ali's education goes beyond the classroom, informing their work as a student organizer. In turn, Ali's experiences organizing in solidarity with struggles to protect the sacred have led to some of their most meaningful learning experiences here at UCSC. And then also, my name is Malia, and I will also be joining. Should we go ahead?
Is it on? Yeah. Aloha, everybody. Aloha kako. So what a beautiful film, eh? A difficult film, but an important film. And one that I know I'll be thinking about for months to come. We are all up here really invested in protection of the Mauna, but all sacred places. And especially ancestral places, places that we know our ancestors are connected to, that we have stories that affirm that for us, and often through so many daily practices, what I really love about the film is that it does survey so many intimacies. It presents to us so many intimate moments among you and your mother and your sister and your relatives, the others who aren't here with us today but who are featured in the film. And it reminds us of the toll that these movements take, but also the beauty in that constant daily practice. And it is every day. It's through these everyday practices that we find ourselves committed to an anti-colonial and anti-patriarchal, a liberated future and a liberated world. And I love that the film captures this so much. Nicole and I think about futures, I think, a lot. Maybe Nicole more than I do, but there were a few lines that really got me to reflect about what we're doing this for and how through your leadership, your family's leadership, in these alienating sites that are designed to disenfranchise us and disavow our claims to life and land and to disqualify us and our voices. And one of the things we chatted about in between during the gift giving was the fact that in so many ways, of course, this work is to stop scientific industrial development on a very storied, beautiful, and fragile place. And it's so not about resistance so much as maybe a recentering of a Kanaka worldview and a way of being. And that points us towards something very powerful. One of your lines I recall is that we can heal through the work, not from it. I was just wondering if you might speak to that, Hāwane.
Mahalo. Mahalo nui for being here and being the pillars of this wahi, and for your ho'okipa, the way you take care of us as we're here. I just want to say mahalo to all of you so much for the love and for creating this space that we can all be together. Mahalo piha. Yeah, and I look at that, sometimes it's hard for me to watch the film because it's a younger version of myself, you know? I was in my late 20s, early 30s as we were filming this. And I look back often, you know, to that person and I just embrace her, you know? Because I didn't really realize at the time, because you're in the work, you're on the front lines, you're in the courtrooms, and I have this like adrenaline and energy. And then when you leave the front line, there is a time where you go quiet and you get to just breathe. And then you start to think about everything that you've experienced. And it's a dream to be able to heal through this work and not just from it. And I remember saying that. And I remember still trying to figure out what that means for me, for my ohana, for everybody there, for my close circle, for our own people. What does that really mean? You know, when we are living under capitalism, when it's so hard to even stay home and live at home and afford being at home, while you're also answering an ancestral mandate to do this work, to protect your āina. And I think now that I'm older, I'm realizing the need to take care of the mind and the body. And so for myself, I've learned that I need therapy. And I need to go to therapy, and this is one way I'm healing through this work. That I'm taking everything that I've learned, everything that I've seen, and I'm starting to refine it. I'm starting to really look at it, look at the patterns, look at the trauma, look at everything, and then try to hulihia it, so to upturn it, so that, or overturn it, so that we can learn from it, what we can do differently for the next front line. There's a lot of things that have taught me so much about standing for your land being a medicine and for it being a healer. And so you also have to be sure that you're taking care of yourself too, as much as you are caring for that land that you love. Take care of your ohana as much as you're taking care of that land that you love, because it's the only way that we can sustain it. So thank you so much for that. Mahalo.
Lahakako, everyone. Oh my, there were so many great lines from the film, but one that has stuck with me was, it's not only a fight for land, but it's about loving land. And I kind of wanted to ask a question about the use of sound in the film. There's like many different layers to it. So intimate moments, silence, oli, mele, a call to rise. But then actually, like out of all the scenes, what really stood out to me was the scene with Hāwane when you're talking to your sister in the car. Because I mean, this is a profound struggle happening on Mauna Kea, but then also I felt like it was like a tender moment between you and your sister that I could have been having with my sister, And so I don't know if you want to just talk about that scene and also how sound, or even Amber, how sound was kind of configured in the creation of the film.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really intentional, so I appreciate you pointing that out, and I think specifically the moments of silence. And we wanted to make sure that all the sounds in there were natural sounds, or they were music from the movement, Hāwane's music, other people's movement music. And we also had a wonderful composer, TJ Tario, who did the composition. But that moment in particular in the car, it really was like we drove up the Mauna, and so it's already like the quiet, the sacred space, except when Hāwane points out the sound of the telescopes, and really kind of the moments of intimacy, between your sister when you're not talking, and giving that kind of space for I feel like we all have those conversations in the front seat of your car late at night, and then you divulge your deepest secrets to your loved one. But it was really intentional, so thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit about that moment. It was so like a whirlwind, fast-paced. You had to just keep on going. And during that front line, I was traveling all over the world already. Me and Mehanakealohakalaua'eikapoli, Kamaka'iwa, Kanaka Ōiwi, we were going and we were teaching everywhere we possibly could. So I didn't really get to have a lot of time with my sister. And that was the first time that I got to really listen to her and how this affected her. And she is so precious to me, and I think that oftentimes we think like, oh, we got it. We're okay because that's how we present, that's kind of how we have to be. Especially when you are the daughters of a leader too on the front lines. You have to put aside certain things to be able to look at the moment and what is needed in the moment. And that taught me so much about checking in. I feel like we would do our little check-ins here and there, but we never really got to talk. And I didn't really realize how heavy this was for her. And so that was a huge lesson for me, to hold her in ways that she's asking for, even when she doesn't even know it yet. And to recognize that there's 12 years between us. And the way that she's seeing it, and what she's experiencing it, could feel so much bigger because she's so young. And so, that moment is really special to me, to get to really hear what she had to say, and also remind her and let her know and affirm her that I'm here and I'm needed. Yeah.
I really appreciated how there was so much care given and attention given in this film to the impact that community in ceremony can have. And thank you. I was just curious about, I think when I teach classes here, I can't not teach Hawaii. it will always figure into all of my classes. And I ask my students, how many have been to Hawaii, and under what circumstances did you visit? And I ask what they think about tourism and how to travel to Hawaii in a way that is anti-tourist or not implicated in tourism. And it's almost impossible for most people, yet everybody will want at some point to come to Hawaii. And I would say between tourism and militarism, these are the things that we're certainly fighting for. And at the end, there was a montage that described, Sherwoods out in Waimanalo, Red Hill, Lahaina, and all the other movements that look to Mauna Kea. But I was curious how, perhaps Hopoi or Hāwane, how you think about the role of ceremony and connection to our ancestors through protocols in this struggle for Lahui, for Ea, and for the future of our people. How does ceremony, what does it do? That sometimes direct action or engagement in the legal discourses cannot quite get to what it is that we're asking for.
Okay, she wants me to start, but I'm going to ask her to speak too. I feel like for myself and my ohana, ceremony has been a part of my life, my whole life. And not every Kanaka can say that, and so I know how special that is. I know how sacred that is. I could not do this work without ceremony. And I know that's like true for so many indigenous people that I've met across these years of building and bridging solidarity with so many movements. We have gathered in prayer together. And I feel like that's like our strongest medicine, is our collective prayer. And this front line is the longest ceremony that we have had in hundreds of years. And it took this, coming together to protect the sacred, for us to gather at the foot of our mountain to remember the protocols and the devotion of aha, of ceremony, 3 times a day, every single day. And so many of the people that came to the ala never got to have that in their life. So many of them never got to dance hula, never got to chant, never got to learn or even speak any part of our language. This was so healing for so many of our own people. And it also connected us with the people who came to stand with us, because the aha was noa, meaning that anybody could come and dance. And so we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Every time we say these oli, speak these oli, chant these oli, dance these mele, every time we dance, every time we chant, we put mana, we put our power, our energy, our spirit onto that oli, onto that hula. And so now on that ala, there's thousands of prayers of people that have come in a good way, to do a good thing, to do the right thing. And I feel like it always makes me think of that Harry Potter scene, you know, that in the last couple movies when all the professors are going up and they're giving their spells and it's protecting Hogwarts. It's very that. That is what I see that the aha is. It's like every single prayer is giving a shield around the mountain and also around our people, around Hawaii, and that's real. And we know that because we're still protected by the prayers of our grandmothers and our grandfathers and those who came before us. And so I just think about how so many people have come to put their prayers there, so many languages, so many dances, and that is probably one of the most powerful things about this past front line that I carry with me always.
I'm just going to speak on how I was called to the Mauna, and it really was the ceremony in the end because, or in the beginning. We had heard about the Mauna. I was given an invitation to come up to learn the hula and some chants before it had actually all started. So I think this was the 14th or something, and I had actually said no. I had become a mother, you know, and some life things had happened, and I ended up with 7 kids at one point. We only have 3. And so it had just really taken over my life. And, you know, even though Hāwane and I were raised in hula and ceremony, I really had to give myself up, you know, for however many years having the children. And, but my mom, who lives in Maui, called and told me she was flying in. She didn't want to take the car, so I had to drive her up there. That's what took me there. And we had brought water, of course, to give to the aku. And when we walked up there, my mom, my auntie, and I were going to offer oli first. And when I went to oli, I couldn't. I just started to cry. I couldn't, and everything changed, you know, at that point. And found myself up there every day, you know, and working in the kitchen. My brother was a fisherman, so I would bring up pole, you know, the fish for the kupuna every day. But it was really the ceremony that called me, that kept me there, you know. So yeah.
So maybe last question, and then if we have time, we can open it up. So I was really interested in, and you kind of had told this story in my class about how your sister had the vision about needing to protect Mauna Kea. And so even how the mo'olelo within your ohana, how it starts with her. And, you know, it reminded me of that line where the ki'i was given to you, your mom, and your sister, and with the intention that she was going to be the steward into the future. And so, you know, it activated mana wahine everywhere to come protect the Mauna. And so I guess my question is, like, what kind of future do you want to see for the Mauna now, 10 years from now, 10,000 years from now? It can be for either of you.
Yeah, I love that question, and I think it's because our prayers have been put into the future for the Mauna. That we don't know if we're gonna see what we are working for. You know, we don't know if we are going to be able to see in our lifetime what we're standing for. I hope so, you know. But I did speak about this yesterday, that in Aotearoa, their mountains have the same rights as Kanaka, as people. I want to see that for Mauna Kea. I want to see us really deeply heard and listened to. The lineal descendants of this Mauna, the living descendants of this Mauna. I want to see our elders heard and listened to. I want to see the beneficiaries of that work, which is my generation and the generations below us. I want to see us heard and listened to. That there is a reason why we don't build on the Mauna. And we know that. Because our kupuna did not do that on the top of our mountain. And they knew what was best because they kept the balance of the elements as sacred in everything that they did, every choice that they made. Because there's like signs up there that say kapu, that this part of the mountain is sacred, that this part, you cannot come over here, you cannot do this is a cultural area. What I hope for is that whole mountain is kapu to even us at some point, so that this Mauna can regenerate. Because when we leave it to do its work, it heals itself. And then that's our part of the healing. That's what we do, is we protect that. That's why we have kapu systems, where for a certain amount of time, we don't fish this fish. We don't gather in this part of the forest. There's a reason for that. And so in this future that I hope that we get to see, I hope that there's no more construction in Mauna Kea. I hope for all of the telescopes to be decommissioned. I hope for a chance for the Mauna to be able to regenerate herself.
Hello. Thank you guys again for being here. I just have a question for a lot of UCSC Mauna Kea protectors here. We organize in allyship and solidarity. And I guess I have a question. How do you maintain the energy and the movement for protecting Mauna Kea, especially in times like this when it gets really hard? And are there ways that you, do outreach to generate allyship from people like me? Because I'm Filipino, I'm not a Kanaka Ōiwi, I'm a settler here on this land. And I'm wondering how you guys approach that. And if you have any insights, because we here at UCSC Mauna Kea Protectors, I think we are the only active organization for Mauna Kea Protectors in the UC system, though we are very resilient, we are very strong. I guess my question is, I think one of the big goals that, to speak for maybe the rest of my close friends and third years who are here, before we leave, I think one of our goals is to really reach out and generate allyship and solidarity with the other UCs, seeing that they're so deeply implicated in the desecration and the colonialism through science on the Mauna. Do you have any insights for us, especially when it comes to respectful and generative and allyship that really promotes a future?
Mahalo. And we love our Mauna Kea Kia'i here. Mahalo nui. I just feel like we get so much, when you do something for so long and it can get a little exhausting, a little tiring. You come and you see young people care so much, it gives you energy to keep on going. And so I mahalo all of you so much. It really moves me to see the love of the students and also the drive and the passion. And I remember having that as a young, when I was young, getting into this movement, I had that fire and I had that passion, and it shifts and it transforms as you get older. And you continue to learn, and it doesn't mean it goes away. It continues, it just matures. And that young fire, my goodness, it helps us to have the energy to go to the next university and do the next sharing and the next screening, because it can get really tiring. And I know you had mentioned, what do you do to keep your energy? We don't always keep our energy. There's so many times where we have burnt out, gotten really depressed. I have a lot of anxiety, a lot of social anxiety. This work is taxing. And it can be really, really exhausting, really painful. There's a lot of heartbreaks, when you get a lot of no's. We've been through so many court cases where we are told no and go back into another contested case hearing, or we are, voting in favor of the TNT. That can tax you as you go along the journey. And so I guess some of my olelo o'a'o, some of my encouragement and my advice is to keep those who you work with and that you resonate with, you stand with, close to you, those you trust. Because when you care so much and when you have so much empathy and you have the capacity to do so, sometimes the heartbreaks come. And it gets really heavy, and it gets really intense. And that means that you are connected to your humanity. You're connected to your soul and your spirit and the spirit of this earth. It's not a bad thing to feel so deeply and have big emotions. And so you can channel that. And you can use that. Know when to rest. Know when to say, okay, you know what? I'm carrying so much right now. I need to listen to myself. Doesn't mean I care any less. I'm going to conserve my energy so I can continue. There's some ways I wish people had told me that I could do that and give me permission to do that. Because the generation above us worked so hard to the point of massive burnout and massive health issues, and it's because they're the ones doing the work. They're the ones laying the foundation and the pathway, and nobody said, hey, you can take a break, you can take a rest, you can take care of yourself while you do this work. And so one way to sustain is to really listen to yourself, to really keep good people around you, to affirm each other and love each other as you do this work. And then the way to connect, I mean, Protect Mauna Kea really came out during that I don't know more time. And so we use social media so much. It is a powerful tool. You know, when you start a petition with the students, you know, around and within this system, that's a powerful thing. That's one way that you can really move forward and show, hey, this amount of students, they're listening, they're seeing. Use those tools because they say something and they mean something. Like, look at our petition. We have over 500,000 signatures, and that couldn't happen without you folks, without your work, and without you guys pushing that out. And so having conversations, huge thing in solidarity building, and really showing up. When other people ask for kokua, when they ask for Protect Mauna Kea to show up, we do our level best to show up. And then that secures like our relationship and our bond in what we both know is sacred, what we both know is important to sustain movements. It's not easy, and it takes a lot of people, and everybody has a role, everybody has a space. So uplift one another and take care of each other as you do that work. Mahalo.
I want to add too, there's like a lot of scenes that didn't make it in the film, but one that I was really sad didn't was when Auntie Pua went to Kahuku they're trying to build these wind turbines on the North Shore, and she gave a speech to some of the young leaders there about, you know, organizing, and she was really talking about like making sure people always feel welcome and not turning against anybody in your group because you feel like they're not showing up in the way that you want them to show up. And that's so important because that means somebody's gonna come back. And you could tell we were like filming it, but like in real time, they were like taking that, they were reflecting maybe on times that they were made to feel like that by somebody else, you know, or they maybe had like projected there, you know, like, oh, you're not doing enough, you didn't show up at this meeting, and how important that is, especially when you're beginning, to not, you know, be careful of those kind of attitudes. And I also think, you know, I think it was Tony K. Bombera who said, like, you know, like, make the revolution irresistible, right? And I think if you spend 2 days with these ladies, you know, like, they're just like laughing and like cracking up all the time because there's so much joy in the work too, and making sure that there are moments that are very light and you're having fun, and because it's so hard. So I think finding those moments is really important.
To the audience? Shall we open up questions to the audience? Zana? Would anybody like to ask a question of our panelists about the film, about the movement, about Mauna Kea protectors here? I'll pass this mic around.
I just really quickly, sorry, I'm gonna steal the mic and then I will pass it around. I just wanted to quickly ask Malia and Sophia, what you all have also learned in this process through obviously working on this screening, which wonderful job to everybody here, and also leading up to the screening and in this process.
I'm so sorry, just wanted to make sure it was on. First of all, I'd like to thank again our guests for coming, and also to Amber for being willing to show the film and work with us. And I'd also like to thank Kepa, Nicole, and all the other faculty who are scattered throughout the audience who really worked to make this thing happen. In terms of broader lessons, I guess, Zana, did you mean like from planning the film, like this specific activity?
No, sorry, about from the Mauna Kea protectors and from the movement itself. That was my bad, yes.
Well, that's a huge question, but I guess one of the main lessons that older students in the movement and also the two Kanaka elders who counsel Mauna Kea protectors, Liko Martin and Lalani Teal, who were two of the elders who were arrested on the summit during the blockade. One thing that they've tried to instill in all of us is like how important the process of relationship building is. And I think in a lot of academic spaces, that's not sort of the emphasis, even when talking about things like, environmental justice or sovereignty. But the idea of having a more relational worldview and like paying attention to who you connect with, showing up for people in smaller ways, helping other people in your movement rest, right? Being emotional support during the times when it's not pretty or it's not easy to do so. That, I think, has been one of the takeaways, and it's kind of an interesting takeaway because I have shared that with folks before, and they expect something different. Like they expect a more, I guess, like politically oriented answer. But I think it's really important to be mindful of like where we come from and what is our intentionality when like engaging with any sort of activist space, and especially in spaces where because I'm not Kanaka or Indigenous, I'm Mexican American, but especially in spaces where, we're advocating for somebody else's land, right? Because we also feel a similar love and a similar devotion to that land as well. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Sophia. Like I mentioned earlier, Sophia is like the main recruiter of UCSC Mauna Kea Protectors. I met Sophia selling lino cuts at Baskin Engineering. I thought Mauna Kea Protectors was a Polynesian org. So when I pulled up and Sophia, like gave me the brief about what Mauna Kea was and how UCSC was involved, I knew like, oh, well, I have to join now. So I think though, like kind of on a similar vein, but on like in retrospect from somebody that is part like Kanaka, I think I've learned how beautiful like true solidarity is. Like I always say like everybody in Mauna Kea Protectors are like the strongest allies I have ever met in my entire life, and they do so much, and I think it's just so, this work is tiring, especially like when there's not many people in these rooms. Like there's 0.2% of Pacific Islanders here at UCSC. PI always gets left out of API. It's just so tiring to continue fighting for your voice to be heard. And I think like what I've just learned through working with some just amazing organizers through Mauna Kea Protectors is that like solidarity, like, every struggle is interconnected, and like we really are stronger together. I think like, like our first year, like when the encampment started, like everybody from Mauna Kea Protectors, we shifted, and I think like it's just been a really beautiful experience organizing with people that don't share, any Pacific Islander blood, but dang, they, sometimes I'm like, dang, they do more than me, but like, yeah, I think another thing I wanted to note though is also just through this work, I think I've learned so much about my culture through Mauna Kea Protectors, which is really surprising. I think that's just like the access that higher education gives you, and I'm really privileged. But I think like what I've really have learned to accept is that like I deserve to be in these rooms. You know, I deserve to take up space. You know, Indigenous people, like, we've been doing these things, and you know, Western like colonialism want to put like a new label on stuff, but you know, it's just been really, I think I've had a lot of rage since I've started here at UCSC, and I like have been learning though that it comes from a place of love. There's a quote I really like from June Jordan. She says that we're not fighting this fight to fight, we're fighting for like the possibilities of tenderness. And like that's really affirming for me, and it really, I think I always think about how mana is within you always, and like you don't, a lot of people like to cleanse negative energy, and trust me, that's real too, like we do need that, but also like I think strengthening your mana, I've really learned how to do that through Mauna Kea protectors and through like the allyship I've seen and just like the beautiful works of solidarity, so yeah.
Okay, so we have time for 3 audience questions. And, oh, I see one in the front. Do you want to?
What an impactful film, boy. Whew. Thank you so much for all of your work on that. When I was a student at UCSC, and I'm just kind of hearing this theme and picking it up from all of you, we had a South Pacific Studies department here. It was a million years ago, but it was taught by a gentleman named Brad Shore, and I think he was from Michigan, I believe. But anyways, he spoke fluent Samoan, and he taught through the anthropology department, and it was South Pacific Studies, and I'm just curious if, I interviewed my mom, I learned all about tapa making, all different sorts of social aspects, because I was not raised there, she was raised there. But I'm just wondering if that idea has ever come up, because 2% is 2%, and there's enough people interested. Have you folks ever talked about that? Of just teaching it, drawing some coursework together.
So Ōlapa asked if you could repeat the question.
I was just wondering if there had ever been talk of establishing some courses with, traditions from the Pacific.
Oh, I teach oceanic visual arts in the history of art and visual culture department, but a lot of my kumus, specifically Noelani Goodyear Kapua, she came from the history of consciousness department in the early 2000s, where UC Santa Cruz was kind of this hub of the flourishing of Pacific studies in general. In the early 2000s, and specifically in that department. All the people that I was trained on came out of Santa Cruz and influenced I'm pretty sure your generation and the generation after. And so I think we're at a very interesting moment where we can have a 2.0 of that moment. Because institutions and departments, they change, they shift over time. They're like their own organisms. So at one point, there was a stronghold for that, and then everybody graduates, moves on. And so now, I don't know, I came to Santa Cruz because of that history.
Yeah, myself and Dr. Fui Niometolo, we teach classes that survey histories and politics and culture of the Pacific. I need to create my class for here on Native Hawaiian politics, and I'll do that, but I'm still kind of new here. And I would just say, though, that many of us who teach critiques of power are at risk in the university right now. And our departments, if we call out white supremacy and patriarchy and Zionism, colonialism, militarism, we're at great risk. We're monitored. many attempts to cut back our funding so that we can't do the kinds of research we need to do and we want to do and we should be able to do. And it's one thing to teach culture, it's another thing to teach power and politics. And I would say that in teaching culture, sure, there is some politics there, but sometimes you have to make it explicit for people who don't see the connections, who don't make the connections. So I'm always mindful of not fetishizing our culture for a foreign gaze, because there are so many people who will want to consume Hawaii but do nothing about land back. And yeah, you speak on behalf of people in fighting for their own lands and their rights to life. In Palestine, as an example, we're constantly surveilled, policed, vilified, as just one example. So this is a recurring theme at all of these American, US colleges and universities, and it's only getting worse. So we have to push back in every way we can. And I think, at least speaking for myself and maybe for others here, one of the strongest ways is to speak truth to power in that way is with a firm grounding in our culture and our language and knowing our history and what it is that we're fighting for. And I think that's where I feel most comfortable making the kinds of interventions I do in the classroom in my research and service.
I was wondering if I could ask a question about a moment when the police have come and are starting to arrest the elders and others. And I wonder, Hāwane, Hopoe, and also Amber, the choice, this is a film that's understood to be about mothers and daughters, but the ties that bind also include the police, and you choose to show that. And I just wonder about this because there's a generation of students here who were part of the encampment, and the police came and they brutalized. They were from all over. They came from like 14 different police departments across the state, and some of them were local. Some of them were, for example, Filipino from Watsonville, and we could recognize who they were. But I wonder about, in this time of enormous repression, when the police, the Border Patrol, ICE, there's many manifestations of repression that take a kind of localized form. And I just wonder what the politics were. I'm saying this in part because when Fui and I had the honor of being in conversation with your mom, Hāwane, in the lead up to this, she spoke about a very different politics from a politics of confrontation. And I wonder if you could just speak about the kind of philosophy behind how you even approached the police and what was the reasoning that you had for that.
Mahalo Piha. Thank you so much for everything. Truly, like for your ho'okipa and your aloha to us. Boundless mahalo to you. And mahalo for this question. Hawaiians, we are island people. We are people of ohana. And we know how to take care of ohana. So many people that are, chosen to be police are family to so many of us. Uncles, aunties, cousins, sisters, brothers even. And so we know them. We've lived a whole life outside of this with them. And I know it was heartbreaking for them to be mandated to come to the Mauna, and for that to be a strategy of the government, to bring ohana and try and pit ohana against ohana. And it doesn't work, not in Hawaii. And it's because of this love and this understanding of each other. And it doesn't mean that it's easy though. It's so hard to be on the other side of your ohana. And knowing that they could make another choice. Knowing that we have had conversations, many conversations to say, you don't have to. But them thinking, I have to because I have to feed my family. I have to because I get these benefits. I can't survive here if I don't do this. I imagine, like, what does that do to them? You know? And so our pule, when we are on that aha, and we are on the ala and in aha, in ceremony, it's not just for us. It's also for all of those who are conflicted. Because so many of them are. They don't want to be there. They don't want to do that. And they have their own pilina to the mapa. And so we have kapu aloha, which you saw here, a firm commitment to what is correct, what is pono, and to our values, to our relationships. And so even when there are Hawaiians that do believe in that, do believe in arresting us, do believe in protecting TNT. That's hard too. You know, we have to face so many mixed emotions, so many big emotions, so many differing thoughts, differing perspectives. And I think at the end of it, we don't want to hurt each other. And they knew that some of them are arresting their own grandparents, their own aunties and uncles, and even sisters. And so they used Ōlelo Hawaii and weaponized Ōlelo Hawaii on the front lines, using a woman who is of the same lineage as Pua Kanahele, who was the one chanting out with her granddaughter being walked out. And I imagine what that did to her, to be asked to use our Ōlelo to tell us if we do not move, we'll be arrested. And like the language trauma in that space was so palpable. Being on the other side of people who are your own people who have weapons, it's scary and it's sad. And so I think for us, many of the police have actually come up to us later on to ask forgiveness. Some of them have even thought that we have like put curses on them or put some kind of energy on top of them. And I'm like, no, that wasn't us. That might have been what you did, sis. But for me, you know, because I had my arresting officer came up to say, did you do something to me? Because my life in this past couple of years has been really bad. And there's a lot of things that have happened to our ohana. And I said, no, that's not me. But for whatever there is, if there's something that I could help to release from you, let's release it. Because I don't want you to live with that. In the end, I want all of our people free. And I think that in Hawaii, we know that we're not just bound by that moment, that we have to live all our lives on this island. So how we treat each other in that moment is gonna set the pathway to how we have our relationships after that. And so I think that that's what makes it different for Hawaiians. And again, it doesn't make it easy, but it gives us a clearer pathway onto how to maintain our relationships or create boundaries. Mahalo.
I noticed during the time that you were up there in the mountain that you had visitors from other nations and leaders from other nations that came up. They felt the urgency to come up and support you. Could you tell us who some of them were?
I was trying. I don't mean to be taking up the time over here. Okay, and this is a question from Pops, who picked us up. Mahalo nui to Pops and Sophia for the aloha and for picking us up and taking care of us. Yes. Mahalo. Many nations came to the front line. Many tribes from Turtle Island, many First Nation tribal peoples. many of our own Mauna Kea peoples from Tonga, Fiji, Samoa, Guahan, vast amounts of people throughout the Moana Nui who not only brought offerings to the ala, but brought ceremony, brought ava, and brought mats just like this for us to sit and have conversation. I'll never forget when the Tongans and the Samoans came. It was like coming home. Yeah. And they came out singing, hundreds and hundreds of our āina, our whānau, our ohana. Oh my gosh. And I remember I was in my tent when they were singing, and I was like, oh my God. Oh yeah, both of us were in the tent, and I was like, oh, the ancestors are coming. And we went out, and it was like a march, and it was beautiful. Some other nations that have come to the Mauna, Palestine. And everything that Palestine continues to face. They came to the Mauna, and that wasn't the first time that they stood for the Mauna. When we asked, and we made a big kahia, please stand with your signs and say, we are Mauna Kea. Palestine was one of the first places to respond. Can you believe that? Like, that makes me cry. Palestinian people are just like Hawaiians, people of the Moana. And in these past years that we've all seen what has happened to Palestine, Mauna Kea knew our commitment, because the Palestinian flag flew right there above the kupuna tent. They brought offerings of kafia and prayer to our kupuna. And I just cannot believe sometimes the depth of love of our Palestinian kin. And so every time we pray for Mauna Kea, we now pray for Palestine. And that is one of the promises that we made on the ala. For every nation that brought their flag and brought their offerings, we declared solidarity, and we really, really mean that. And so, mahalo for asking that, because, you know, this movement for Mauna Kea cannot be sustained without solidarity. And we haven't gone this far out into the world without other people who are not even Kanaka, who have turned their eyes to the Mauna and said, oh, I need to do something and I need to say something. So thank you so much to all of you for your aloha for this Mauna that is so sacred, not just to us, but to the world. Mahalo piha.
Now that we're done with the audience Q&A, we wanted to give one last question to the UCSC Mauna Kea protectors. If you guys wanted to talk a little bit about specifically UCSC's implication in the project for the TMT, and what people can do here at UCSC to support, and how people at UCSC can get involved.
So in terms of like the history of how UCSC is connected to the 30-meter telescope project, like the film mentioned, the 30-meter telescope is sort of this new prototype for a class of telescopes called ELTs, which means extremely large telescope. This particular, prototype of astronomy equipment was designed here at UC Santa Cruz in the astronomy department in the early 2000s. And in fact, one thing I do want to acknowledge that I forgot to mention earlier is that I'm sort of a third-generation Mauna Kea protector at UCSC. I just wanted to mention Michelle Gloa, Carly DeSerna, who was Kanaka, Will Parrish, and also Sierra Dodd and Alex Mannings from the astronomy department. And 2 of the graduate students from astronomy, as well as several faculty, joined MKP around 2019, specifically because they did not want to be forced to work on the TMT project because of the ethical implications. So they're like, what can we do to help stop this project from our own position in this department that is directly funding this project and participating in this multi-million-dollar astronomy industry. And there's much more, you know, Iokepa, I'm sure we could like go on. That's like a whole other talk, is UCSC Astro and the TMT, because it's a really interesting history. But in terms of current campaigns that we're running right now, for the past 2 years, we've been fundraising for victims of the Lahaina wildfires. People still remain displaced by the Lahaina wildflowers and the wildfires, not wildflowers. The tourist industry has also prevented individuals from being able to, you know, stay and live on their homelands. So we're running a fundraising campaign for that. Another campaign we're currently running with our lino cut sales. If you bought a lino cut today, 100% of the proceeds from that benefit victims of the recent, or not victims, I should say survivors of the recent floods in Oahu and the Big Island. If you want to, you know, learn more about what we do, please follow us on social media. I believe we have Facebook, Instagram, and also be sure to follow the Protect Mauna Kea account, which is run by Puakeis and I believe, you know, Hāwane and other kia'i from the Big Island. Please follow that account, because that also gives out really important information for when you can submit a public comment, either to the UC Regents to say, we don't want to fund TMT since the UC has a significant financial stake in TMT, or to, you know, the government of the state of Hawaii, because they have various different hearings with the Bureau of Land and Natural Resources related to TMT. And you can also submit a public comment there. I really highly encourage you all to get involved with the org. About once a quarter, Liko and Laulani, who are 2 of the kapuna who are connected to Will Parrish, and to Carly DeSerna and Michelle, they come out here to the area to meet with students and to teach students and to really just like be in community with us and the other faculty. So it's a wonderful community, and I hope you'll all, you know, check us out more.
Really quick, I wanted to say a quick note about solidarity organizing. Just going back to Professor Iokepa mentioned very briefly about everyday decolonization, as well as Hāwane mentioning like keeping the people you organize with very close. One of the things that I've learned and has become one of the things that like really powers me through organizing is I really would like every student, everyone who feels agitated and like this fierce love that turns into rage to get organized and like join an organization. And with that, I think back to, I think it was a reading I did for your class, Professor Iokepa, called Everyday Decolonization. And the acts of everyday decolonization. Just thinking about like conducting, I'm tying it to a lot of things as well. We have some kasamas from Anakbayan here as well, and they taught me about social investigation, class analysis, and a lot of that is kind of become the foundation of a lot of friendships that I have, because I organize with my friends, but I'm not organizing just because my friends are doing it, but because our relationships are built upon like interrogating our identities and where we come from. Like, where is your family from? Why are you here in America? Why are you here in California? And what are the hierarchies of power that have created pressures and violences upon your family? And all of these things is what informs our organizing and informs our solidarity work. And I just want to say that's a really important thing to highlight, especially with MKP, as Malia has mentioned. Majority of MKP are allies, are non-Pacifica members, and I think I would love for a lot of people in this room to join MKP and start organizing. But I wanted to say the note of everyday decolonization, having this class analysis and interrogation of your identities be really at the root of what you organize for, because I think like in learning and trying to be in solidarity with like Mauna Kea and learning about what is sacred for Kanaka Maoli, it has also led me to investigate what's sacred to me, and like with Filipino organizing, and also just all of the issues that are going on back home in the Philippines where my family is from. Everything is connected, you know. Militarization, US imperialism has affected Hawaii and the Philippines in very similar but violent ways. I just wanted to highlight that because I have a lot of new classmates and new friends that are in this room, and if you guys would like to get organized, you should definitely talk to some of us in this room. Oh, and also, I guess really quick, shout out the APSME strike beginning May 14. We have labor organizing and solidarity work. It really goes hand in hand, and there is so much power in being, you know, students supporting the workers. So check out the zines in the back. That's all, yeah.
To add on to what Sophia and Ali like beautifully said, I think, yeah, if this agitates you and you want to join and you want to be in solidarity, it, like, you know, a lot of organizing work is, you know, knowing that you're not going to see the fruits of your labor, but it really is done by, you know, numbers, people being consistent in pressuring the administration. I think I think a huge thing about the movement from Mauna Kea, from a UC Santa Cruz standpoint, is that we're investing so much money into this desecrating project on sacred land when our workers are not being paid enough. We have a housing crisis here on campus. You know, we're in a $100 million budget deficit, yet we're putting our resources and our wages over to this terrible project, which also, like, no UC students get to use that so-called telescope. It's ridiculous and it's really unfortunate. And this goes in relations to Palestine as well. You know, the University of California's endowments has 18% of it goes to Israel. That's $32 billion. And it's just horrific given the conditions that students and workers are under right now. And, you know, I want to bring it back about, you know, really, if this agitates you and you want to, you know, be a part of this movement, and to be a part of this movement that will probably take years, you know, please do, because it's all about staying consistent. And I had I don't know if I would say privilege, but one of the things that I have access to through my positionality through student government is that I get to be in quarterly meetings with our chancellor. And in our last meeting, I asked her about Mauna Kea. That was the only question I reserved, and I really wanted to know what her perspective was, how she would repair relationships with Native Hawaiian students and other Pacific Islander students that feel, you know, really uncomfortable knowing that our money is going towards this. And she refused to even comment. She said the project had halted. She said that, and I quote, like, I don't think they would do it without Indigenous support. Yeah, and I just have, yeah, really out of touch, obviously. And she did not seem to, think that I would know my facts as well. So, yes. But, you know, I think I was really proud of myself in that moment that I still, you know, stood and, you know, continued to ask, like, I love your chancellor of, you know, this university, you can't comment on it. And she was just like, And, you know, I told her straight up, though, that it's really unfortunate, you know, given the fact, like I did mention earlier, there's only 0.2% of Pacific Islander students here on this campus. I think it's the percentage of, you know, in the entire University of California is also around like that 1 to 2% threshold. And I told her, like, straight up, like, as a Pacific Islander student, given your lack of like commentary, I would not tell another Pacific Islander student to come here and be complicit in this project, which is why I'm wearing my shirt that says "Say No to UCSC."
This concludes our program.
I saw that you had a fire in your heart.
Shall we thank our panelists, our guests, our kia'i from Mauna Kea, Amber, Hāwane, and Hopoi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the panelists. And you know, we also have to honor this too as our here with us, and maybe we can close our meeting with a prayer. We'd love to, if it's possible, a chant or a musical offering. It would mean so much to us.
Mahalo ʻiakako, makahiako. Mahalo from us, from my mom, who really wanted to be here. Mahalo from Mauna Kea ʻohana. Mahalo Hāwane, mahalo to all of the organizers. I was going to offer this oli to close. This oli was written for the front lines, and it was presented to the students at our dinner. And it means to ku, to stand, but ku doesn't only mean to stand, it means to embody. So when we say ku kia'i mauna, we are saying we embody the protection of the Mauna. We are the protection of the Mauna. And so we offer this here in hopes that it gives you strength, that it can be embedded in your DNA and in your backbone. Not just for the Mauna, but for every āina, for every land and every people that is calling us, that are calling for us to show up and care, do something and say something. This oli is about solidarity. It's about casting the rainbow bridge across our currents to remind us that we are not going to be free until we're all free. And so this says, Ku kia'i mauna. Stand strong like a Mauna. Be the Mauna. Embody the Mauna. From our movement, all together, to the movements of the world protecting the sacred. Ku'olenakahi Kūhai. Ku'olenakahi Kūhai. Ku'aloha pa'a Makakau. Kaukea wawai kuaku kapaku. Kukai makani kamakani o kalani kamakani hula kamakani o. Ho hey hey. Ho hey hey. Ke akaku wano wano ke akaku kaheka he.
Beautiful, thank you so much.